Hi there, Thursday morning Daily Bible Time. Dominic Steele, thanks for joining us. And next thing that happens in this journey through 2Samuel that we're on is that Abner, who you'll remember is the general of Ishbosheth, communicates with the leaders of Israel. Now, when we say leaders of Israel, we're talking the northern tribes, the other tribes other than Judah, where David is king. And he tells them, David is your man, not Ishbosheth. I'm looking at 2 Samuel 3:17. Abner conferred with the elders of Israel. In the past you wanted David to be king over you. Now take the action, because the Lord has spoken concerning David. Through my servant David I'll save my people Israel from the power of the Philistines and the power of all Israel's enemies. Abner also informed the Benjaminites and went to Hebron to inform David about all that was agreed on by Israel and the whole house of Benjamin. Now, Benjamin is the tribe of Saul, and hence Benjamin is the tribe of Saul's son Ishbosheth. And so that Benjamin is singled out here, is even Benjamin, even the tribe of Benjamin are with the move to make David king. And it seems there's no opposition from the other leaders. They too have, well, even they knew before really that Ishbosheth is not the guy, that David was the guy. And actually John Woodhouse points out, it's interesting, there's no confession from Abner about his mistake in proclaiming Ishbosheth king, no repentance from him saying, I used my power to defy God. And perhaps, I think probably, the quick response to Israel to the suggestion here from Abner of switching from Ishbosheth to David was that actually the others would have all gone with David earlier if it wasn't for Abner putting forward Ishbosheth. Anyway, Abner, having done all that, having got the consensus of the leaders of Israel, goes to visit David. Verse 20, when Abner and 20 men came to David at Hebron, David held a banquet for him and his men. Abner said to David, let me now go and I'll gather all Israel to the Lord my king. They'll make a covenant with you, and you'll reign over all you desire. David dismissed Abner, and he went in peace. Now it would seem that banquet took place when Joab was out of town. But what's happened is Abner has restored a relationship with David, but still difficulties remain between David's general Joab and Abner, who of course was formerly the general for Ishbosheth. So 22, just then David's soldiers and Joab returned from a raid. They brought a large amount of plundered goods with them. Abner was not with David at Hebron because David had dismissed him and he'd gone in peace. When Joab and his whole army arrived, Joab was informed. Abner, son of Ner, came to see the king. The king dismissed him. He went in peace. Joab is furious with his king. Verse 24. Joab went to the king and said, what have you done? Look here, Abner came to you. Why did you dismiss him? Now he's getting away. You know that Abner, son of Ner, came to deceive you, to find out about your military activities and everything you're doing. Now, that's a wrong analysis. We know, because we know the narrator's mind, that that's a wrong analysis. But there's been bad blood between Joab and Abner, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Joab acts without authority, significantly without the authority of King David. Verse 26, Joab left David, sent messengers after Abner. They brought him back from the well of Sirah, but David was unaware of this. David does not know what Joab is doing here. Verse 27, Abner returned to Hebron. Joab pulled him aside to the middle of the city gate, so as if to speak to him privately, and there Joab stabbed him in the stomach. So Abner died in revenge for the death of Asahel, Joab's brother. Now, you might remember a few chapters earlier, Abner did kill Joab's brother, but he tried not to. It was Joab's brother who provoked Abner, took the fight up to him. Abner tried to avoid the fight because he knew it was going to be politically difficult if he killed Joab's brother. But it came down to kill or be killed, and so eventually he killed him. But Joab has had this lingering bad blood about that. Anyway, verse 28, David heard about it later and said, I and my kingdom are forever innocent before the Lord concerning the blood of Abner, son of Ner. May it hang over Joab's head and his father's whole family. May the house of Joab never be without somebody who has a discharge of a skin disease, or a man who can only work a spindle, or someone who falls by the sword or staves. So Joab and his brother Abishai killed Abner because he'd put their brother Asahel to death in the battle of Gibeon. David directs that proper mourning for Abner take place. 31. David ordered Joab and all the people who were with him, tear your clothes, put on sackcloth, mourn over Abner. King David walked behind the coffin. When they buried Abner in Hebron, the king wept aloud at Abner's tomb. All the people wept, and the king sang a lament for Abner. Interesting that they buried him in Hebron, not over in Benjamin. Benjamin shows a change, is illustrative of the change of sides. Should Abner die as a fool dies, says David? Your hands were not bound, your feet not placed in bronze shackles, and all the people wept even more. That line from David, should Abner die as a fool dies? I mean, Joab had treated Abner as a fool. He had deceived him. Joab had used Abner's goodwill towards David to trap him and to murder him, but David said Abner was no fool. Rather, Joab and Abishai had been wicked. Verse 35, they came to urge David to eat food while it was still day. David took an oath, may God punish me so severely if I taste bread or anything else before sunset. All the people took note of this, and it pleased them. In fact, everything the king did pleased them. On that day, all the troops in all Israel were convinced the king had no part in the killing of Abner. Then the king said to his soldiers, you must know, a great leader has fallen in Israel today. As for me, though I am the anointed king, I have little power today. These men, these sons of Zuriah, are too fierce for me. May the Lord repay the evildoer according to his evil. There's no escaping that David here publicly calls his general and his brother wicked. It seems to be public. David is saying clearly that Joab and Abishai's ways are not my ways, not the ways of the kingdom of the Lord. I just want to drill down on that line. As for me, though I am the anointed king, I have little power today. That's how the Christian Standard Version has it. Other translations have, though I am the anointed king, I am gentle today. Violence is not the way for me today. David is saying there isn't, well, he's not saying there's no place for violence ever, but it's not today. And then he says, these guys, they're more fierce. The reality is what David is doing is leaving vengeance, leaving judgment to the Lord. The Lord, he says, will repay the evildoers according to their evil. Judgment will be done by the Lord, not by me. And actually, it's just worth reflecting. There'll be many times when those of us who follow Christ will in the end leave retribution, will leave judgment to the Lord. It'll be our task to respond to the wrong with humility, with gentleness. And at that point, this wrong has been done to David. But he does give us a model of how to respond in those circumstances, to actually to be humble, to be gentle, to say violence is not the way for me today. At this point, David is a very helpful model for us. Thanks for joining us on Daily Bible Time today. Looking forward to your company Friday and for you being with us Village Church Sunday. And that's just going to be great. Cheers. God bless. Bye-bye.